everybody. Today we're going to be looking at lines of symmetry. Now, I think you all already know what this means, but if I were to take something that is symmetrical, then both sides are going to be the same. And if I were to take them and fold them, they would be the exact same things all lined up. So let's take a look at a few pictures and let's talk about what symmetry looks like. In this first image, we have 4 different shapes, and you can see the dotted line down the center. That is the line of symmetry. That is the line where if you were to fold that shape in half, the 2 sides would lay exactly on top of each other. So the rectangle, you could fold that right in half. Those 2 sides are identical. In the star, the 2 sides are identical. They are, from yesterday, congruent. You could fold one on top of the other. Same with the triangle, and same with the arrow. Now, it's not just different shapes that are symmetrical. Let's take a look at this next one. You can see that some letters are actually symmetrical. So the capital A is symmetrical. I would encourage you to think through the alphabet and see if you can find any other letters that are symmetrical. This face is symmetrical. And here is a trapezoid that is also symmetrical. Again, you can fold them in half down that center line, and the 2 sides would be exactly the same shape and the same size. Now let's take a look at some symmetry in nature, because we care about symmetry because God has trained our brains to believe that symmetrical is beautiful. So let's take a look at some things in nature that God has made perfectly beautiful with symmetry. The first picture here is this monarch butterfly. You'll notice that the 2 sides of the butterfly are symmetrical. And God made this. This is not some symmetry picture that someone has come up with. This is something that God has designed. Now take a look at this snowflake. How incredibly complex and perfect is it? It's so beautiful, and it is symmetrical. If you were to fold it in half, it would be the same on both sides. I mean, God didn't have to make snowflakes that beautiful. And the truth is, we don't usually see snowflakes up that close. But how amazing is that to know that every single snowflake that falls is unique and absolutely perfectly designed by our God. And finally, I have a pretty cool picture of a starfish. I just thought this was so cool because it's so detailed. I've never seen a starfish with like all these little circles all over it. It's really neat. And it's a beautifully symmetrical starfish. So we can see that God uses symmetry in nature. You could go outside right now and you could find some different things that God has made symmetrical. People have taken what God has done in nature and they've used it in some of the things that they have made. So now here, take a look at this building. This is a famous building called the Taj Mahal, and it is also symmetrical because the designers realized that in nature, symmetry is beautiful. So in their design, they use symmetry to make it beautiful. All right, let's take a look at the work you're going to be doing in your pages today. Today you're doing lines of symmetry in the papers that I sent you. This is again the book that you don't have at home, so I have sent the pages for you to print off. And if some days you don't need to have them printed off, but today, since we're drawing lines of symmetry, it would be really helpful if you can print them off. If you can't, then you're going to want to redraw some of these shapes on a piece of paper as best as you can. All right, so for number 1, Luke draws a line to break the shape into 2 parts. Are the parts of the shape congruent? So remember, a line of symmetry, you're going to have 2 sides that are congruent. So tell me, are these ones congruent? All right, number 2, is this dashed line down the center of these shapes, is it a line of symmetry? Could you fold this shape in half and have it all match up perfectly? So just yes or no. Over to number 3, which is a huge question. You're going to use a ruler if you have one. If you don't have a ruler, you can actually just use the edge of a notebook, would be a good straight line too, to draw your line of symmetry. So you just have to draw 1 line of symmetry in these shapes. Okay? They all have at least 1 line of symmetry. In number 4, you're going to draw 2 lines of symmetry. So these shapes could be folded in 2 different directions and still have congruent sides. okay? Number 5 is where you're going to start doing some drawing, and the dashed line here is the line of symmetry. You're going to draw the missing part with a ruler. So you're going to need to be counting the dots to make sure that you're doing it properly. And if it looks funny, it probably is, and maybe you need to erase a part. So make sure that you use a pencil for this question. And then finally, number 6, you're going to sketch the missing part of the picture so that it has a line of symmetry. So what you can do, it doesn't have that dashed line across it like these other questions have. So you can draw that line first and then imagine you're reflecting it like it's in a mirror, or you're folding it over. What is the rest of the picture going to look like? I mean, this one, you guys can probably figure it out. These ones, you're going to have to think a little bit more.